Welcome to the 2018 St. Genevieve High School Hall of Fame induction ceremony. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Julie Fleeg. I am the superintendent of the school district, and I am going to say I'm a 1990 graduate, so very proud to be able to continue my career here at St. Genevieve and continue to be a dragon. Tonight, I'm excited to introduce our two newest members of our Hall of Fame. So I'm going to start first with Mr. Herbert Follert, and then Mr. Follert's going to come up and talk, and then I will introduce Mr. Rick Boyer. So Herbert Follert. Mr. Follert was born and raised by Frank and Cora Follert on a farm in River Oaks Falls. I said that right, didn't I? Right, I know. In 1950, he began his freshman year at St. Genevieve High School, where he participated in the newly formed vocational agricultural program. Mr. Follert not only got involved with the courses offered, but became an officer in the first Future Farmers of America chapter and participated in both state and national programs. He also participated in football, class plays, chef club, and was a prom escort his junior year. Mr. Follert graduated from St. Genevieve High School in 1954. He went on to work for the Missouri Farmers Association Cooperative and worked in various roles throughout his 25 years of employment. After leaving MFA, he was elected to represent St. Genevieve and Perry counties in the Missouri House of Representatives in 1982. He served these communities for 12 years. Throughout his time in the Missouri House of Representatives, Mr. Follert stayed true to his passion for agriculture. Many of his legislative actions reflect not only his knowledge of rural community needs, but also his commitment to help boost tourism and development throughout the state. Some of the legislation he helped sponsor was the authorization of riverboat casinos, increases to the state's tourism budget, and the establishment of the Missouri Art Council Trust Fund. In 1990, Mr. Follert was elected as a member of the Board of Directors of Citizens Electric Corporation, where he continued to serve both Perry and St. Genevieve counties for 26 years. In 1997, Mr. Follert was appointed to be the Deputy Director of the Missouri Division of Tourism, and was later elected into the Missouri Tourism Hall of Fame. He was given the St. Genevieve Chapter of Commerce Presidential Award in 2006. He has received the St. Genevieve Chamber of Commerce Small Business of the Year Award, Distinguished Service Award from the St. Genevieve 4-H Clubs, Distinguished Service Award from the St. Genevieve Jaycees, and the 2013 Association of Missouri Electric Cooperatives Frank R. Stork Democracy Award, and is an honorary member of Future Farmers of America. In 2013, Mr. Follert also received a Lifetime Service Award from the Missouri Democratic Party. Mr. Herb Follert's accomplishments exemplify his leadership, dedication, determination, and commitment to serve the needs of rural Missouri. Herb and Norma, his wife of 60 years, still reside in St. Genevieve, Missouri. They have 3 children, Mary Jo Raymer, Mark Follert, and Mike Follert. They have also been blessed with 7 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Herbert Follert to the podium.
Good evening. Nice that all of you have taken your time to be here with us this evening. And after her long introduction there, I think I'm going to alter my remarks quite a bit because she's talked about most of it. And so I basically am going to ignore a lot of what I wrote here and kind of tell you what my day consisted of. We had a very informal but terrific tour of the facilities here, which it's the first time I've been in this building. And we toured some of the old ones that I used to be in, the old high school building up on the hill. And we got to tour the old academy, which was wonderful. I mean, that was amazing. And it's amazing that all the facilities here. As I understand it, that building across from here was used to be the football field, and where this is at now was a horse pasture. So it's changed quite a bit. But what an honor and a privilege to be back here at St. Gen High School. And after graduating from here, as he said, 64 years ago, wow, this is one heck of an honor to be here and to share it with Mr. Rick Boyer, who is class of 1964. You know, I took the time to see hanging on the wall just across the lot here all 17 of the previous inductees into St. Genevieve High School Hall of Fame. Lots of outstanding individuals, going all the way back to the first, or I guess it was the first, Ormella Peterson. That was the 1925 era. Miss Peterson was one of my teachers back when I was in high school. She was a great lady, a great teacher, but she taught English, and that was not my favorite subject. But we got along very well, and Mr. Peter Beckley also was one of my favorite teachers. He taught science. And by the way, he was the only teacher in high school, in my high school years, that sent me to the principal's office, and that was for falling asleep in his class. So anyway, back to my point, he was the father of Herman Beckley, the Hall of Fame inductee in 2012. My point being that these chosen people represent the many, many, many other St. Gen High School graduates that maybe could just as well have their pictures hanging on that wall. What I'm referring to is tradition, a St. Gen High School tradition. And I wasn't real sure how to explain tradition, so I looked it up in the dictionary. Nowadays, most everybody would look it up on the internet. But anyway, here's what the dictionary said on tradition. It said, tradition, the handing down of knowledge, beliefs, and customs from one generation to another. Anything handed down from the past so strongly rooted that has the effect of an unwritten law. And that pretty much explains the tradition here at St. John High School. Tradition from the very beginning of this institution throughout the early years, such as Miss Peterson's years, the 50s, 60s, 80s, and all through up to this century, all have had or are diligently working to keep that great tradition going. I have personally had 2 sisters and 2 brothers that graduated from this high school ahead of me. All did well. My older brother, Dick, served in the Korean War. When he returned from service, he had the opportunity to complete his education with the help of what was then known as the GI Bill. He got his first degree from University of Missouri and a doctorate degree from Purdue University. As for myself, I didn't have the opportunity. No, I better say that I didn't take the opportunity to attend college. I walked and worked down a different path through my life. I kind of chuckle when I think back of my days in Jefferson City and my time with the Division of Tourism, when I would meet and talk to people from everywhere in the state of Missouri, across the state. And over conversation would always lead back to St. Genevieve. If they knew anything at all about St. Genevieve, their reply would be, "Oh, what a beautiful and serene place." And I've never in all those years heard anything really bad or discouraging anything about St. Genevieve. And then somewhere in that same conversation, they would say, And what college did you attend? And being too embarrassed to say I didn't attend college, I would just say, kind of smirking, at St. Genevieve. And their reply was, oh, I wasn't aware of a college in St. Genevieve. No, but they have a super great high school. So that took care of my college degree. Anyway, I'm not going to go into a lot of the other stuff. I had some things just to go through. I'd like to fast forward through up until the year after, in 1982, which was the year that after 25 years with MFA, I thought I would like to dip my feet into the political waters. And after much discussion with Norma, my wife, and the kids, we kind of agreed that it would be okay if I would run for state representative. And that was for District 152, which consisted all of Perry County and most of St. Genevieve County. I didn't have the northern part of St. Genevieve. Some areas in the district were very tough and really hard to campaign in. I recall one instance where I was in a certain area in the district a few times and didn't do very well. One of the guys called me and said, hey, I'll go with you down there if you want me to help. So I did. And I had, back at that time I was campaigning with, I had a big old white panel truck and with my name smeared all over. And so anyway, I met him in this area. So he said, just park your car on that lot, and he said, come with me and we'll go campaign. So off we went, and we had a pretty good day, I thought, maybe. And that afternoon, he took me back to my panel truck, and he went on. I got in the truck, and on the windshield was a little sign on there. And I went out and a note and said, please don't ever park on this lot again. So that kind of blew my balloon for that day. But anyway, and all through the campaign, we worked it out pretty good. I talked to him and got to be friends. And I think they voted for me, I think, unless they were lying. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, we won the election, and off to Jeff City I went. And that was quite an experience for this old country boy. But Danny Staples, who was a state rep before in South Central Missouri, decided to run for senator, and he had stiff competition too. But he won also, and when I got to Jeff City, he was of course up there. We got to be friends, so he helped me out a lot at the beginning, and things went pretty smooth. I'm not going to dwell on things too much, but in the 12 years that I was up there, it was a lot of things took place, and I was appointed to a lot of good committees, and I had the Agriculture Committee, the Banking Committee, and as she said a while ago, tourism. I was on a tourism committee, which I chaired for several years. And in that time, just a couple of things that I thought was pretty important in my time, and we passed legislation. I'll never forget the tourism. I was always fighting for money. They had very little appropriations. So anyway, we all got together in the tourism ministry, and I sponsored House Bill 188, which totally changed the system through the state that changed the funding for tourism. And we kind of went after that, kind of went from the bottom of the states as far as money, capital to spend on advertising and promotion, and got up pretty close to the top. So I was very thrilled with that. Also did a lot of funding changed the funding for Missouri Arts Council. One thing that we passed in the House, I sponsored the riverboat gaming bill. And a lot of people will say, what are you doing sponsoring riverboat gaming? And that, in my estimation, went back to tourism, because Norma and I and our family ran the restaurant, the whole Hotel St. James restaurant at that time. And we had 1, 2, and maybe even sometimes 3 buses would come in to St. Genevieve and spend the day and had lunch at the different restaurants and everything. But anyway, at the time, I started dwindling down the buses and got down to where we were only having one or two, maybe every 2 weeks. So anyway, most of these buses were coming from Mid-America coaches out of Washington, and so I called them to see, and they told me, well, that it has changed. All the people were getting in, they now want to go to Iowa. And I said, Iowa, what's up? They had just passed up there that year, riverboat gambling, and all of them were going up there. So that's why I thought maybe what was goose was good for the gander, and that's why I was trying to bring those people back to Missouri as far as tourists goes and help the economy. And it was tough. I tried at least 2 years to get it passed, and it didn't go much anywhere. So the third year we promoted it more as tourism rather than gambling. And so it was just a referendum bill. The bill didn't actually approve riverboat gaming, but it was a referendum bill which allowed it to go on a ballot for the people to vote on it, which after the people voted on it, and it passed. So that was, I don't know, supposedly all that income or money from that is supposed to go to education. And I know they've got ways of manipulating that, but I'm sure it helped out some. So anyway, I'm going to kind of skip over this because we got things to do and whatever. But I think I just want to dwell a little bit on St. Genevieve, and without dwelling much on that, we couldn't talk about that much without talking about the flood of 1993. And that was, I think all of us remember that. God, that was a summer. Everyone that was big enough to handle a shovel was sandbagging. And anyway, we did that for a while, and anyway, it at the one point saw that we were losing it, so Senator Denny Staples and I contacted the Missouri National Guard, and boy, did they respond. They came in here with equipment and personnel, and kind of looked like a war zone for a little while. But I'll never forget Colonel Broughton, who was in charge of the crew here in St. Genevieve. He just worked his butt off not only trying, but saving St. Genevieve. He fell in love with the people of St. Genevieve, and that made him more determined to help that. So anyway, to make a long story short, they saved our town. Excuse me. So all this led to a permanent levy, thanks to the political leaders further up and all that. So now with the permanent levy, no more sandbagging, I hope. Well, that is not a promise, but it is. So anyway, just a little bit about St. Genevieve. We haven't grown a lot over the last few years, and a lot of people say, why can't we grow? But like before, when I told you I talked to a lot of people in tourism, and when I was state rep, everybody just that has ever been here just loved the town. And we had people when we was running the restaurant again from the neighboring towns, and especially Farmington, which has really grown and hustle and bustle, and but they would come over and say, if you want to, we come over to St. Genevieve to really enjoy a nice evening and enjoy the quiet and lower pace of St. Genevieve. But, we've improved a lot. We haven't grown a lot, but we've improved a lot. And we have most of the amenities and the special needs to make us a stronger and more solid community. For instance, just here, our school system here in St. Genevieve is tops in the state. Our medical team, our doctors, local hospital, second to none as a country hospital. all of our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, and ambulance district, all top-notch. Our churches, this area is very faith-oriented community, and the work ethics of the people, they're wonderful. They got that get-her-done attitude. And then just now recently, we, St. Genevieve, will have our own national park. And it's something that some people have been working on for 15 or 20 years. But by golly, the groundwork is laid, and now we have to build on that. And it won't be fast, but at least we've got to start it. So I need to wrap this up, and before doing so, I would like to recognize some of the best and most important people in my life, my family. My wife, Norma, 60 years of love and happiness, Norma. Our daughter, Mary Jo Raymer, is here, and Mary Jo has been a stalwart in the family. Our son, Mark, his wife, Julie, his son, Ethan, and their daughter, Anna, and they're all here in front. Our son, Mike, and his wife, Kelly, could not be with us this evening. Once again, I would like to thank anyone and everyone who had anything to do with this, Rick and I receiving this incredible award, and to thank all of you for being here to help us celebrate. Good evening, and God bless. Thank you.
You ready? All right. Mr. Rick Boyer was born in 1946 into a family of musicians. Even at a young age, his musical ability and passion for music was apparent. At age 11, Mr. Boyer filled in as a guitar player for a local teenage band with his older brother, Jimmy. When he was 12 years old, he saved up enough money to buy his first Gibson electric guitar. As teenagers, Rick and Jimmy Boyer played in several bands with their friends, performing at dances in St. Genevieve and surrounding towns. Upon graduating from St. Genevieve High School in 1964, Mr. Boyer decided to follow his dream of becoming a professional musician and moved to Nashville, Tennessee. Rick and Jimmy, who was already recording in Nashville, formed a band that began playing in Peoria, Illinois in the late 1960s. After returning to Nashville in the mid-1970s, the Boyer brothers found themselves playing together again, this time with the Billy Swan Band, with Rick on the bass guitar and Jimmy on drums. They went on tour performing both nationally and internationally with the Billy Swan Band at the height of the band's success following the 1974 release of Swan's #1 hit, I Can Help. After touring with the Billy Swan Band, Rick returned to Nashville. He then auditioned for the popular country band and television variety show host Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters. Rick was hired as the bass guitar player for the band. From here, Mr. Boyer would go on to play bass guitar on a national tour with country music star Eddie Rabbitt. In addition to playing bass guitar, he taught himself to play steel guitar. His talent and ambition allowed him to play music and record with many legendary country music stars, including such famous artists as George Jones, Willie Nelson, Vince Gill, Charlie Pride, Tammy Wynette, Porter Wagner, Charlie Lovin, Jack Green, Charlie McCoy, Little Jimmy Dickens, Billy Walker, Stonewall Jackson, and countless other stars of country music. Mr. Boyer has also found success in other aspects of the arts and entertainment business. His interest in photography led him to begin a business as a professional photographer. His work can be seen on album covers, in books and calendars, and on the walls of recording studios and numerous entertainment businesses in the Nashville area. He has also written a collection of children's poems and become an outstanding visual artist, painter, carpenter, designer, and music producer. Mr. Rick Boyer continues to live in Nashville, playing live shows and recording with various Nashville artists, producing records for other artists, writing new music, and pursuing other interests as a visual artist. He remains a humble and modest person. Mr. Boyer, would you all please join me in welcoming him to the stage?
Wow, long way up here. In the first place, I really appreciate this honor. Feel like I don't deserve it, but this town, I'm so glad I was raised here. This is. I remember my grandpa saying so many times he thought that he was born the best time that anybody could. He said he saw the electric light bulb, the horseless carriage, and a man land on the moon. I saw a lot of changes too. Man, we all have. This town, though, I tell a lot of people, this town that I come from, a lot of things change, and there are some changes that are nice, but there's some parts of this town that don't change, and boy, that's nice too. I love to see the historic things. I think I can thank Mrs. Matthews for that. A long time ago, she started that historic thing in this town. It really made this town something. It made them start fixing up the buildings and stuff like that. And I appreciate that so much in this town. The Oris Theater, man, I remember going there and with my cousin, Louis Pruno. He used to run the projector back there, and I would go back there and help him run that thing. And now it's a place that you can go there and see music and stuff like that. I love those kind of changes. They're really cool. I remember walking one time back from a matinee on Saturday. I was walking past the Bolduc House. The Bolduc House looks exactly the same as it did when I was a kid. And I walked past that thing. I didn't drive down there lately. Has it changed? I hope it hasn't. But I remember walking past that, and there was a guy over there with the movie camera across the street, and he hollered for me. He said, "Hey, come here." And he said, "Will you walk down there?" He said, "I'm making a documentary." And he said, "If you'll walk past this building," he said, I'd like to get some movie of you, some movement, you know. It's for, you know." He said, "I'll give you a quarter." He gave me a quarter, and man, if there's a time that if I get to go to heaven, and I'll say, I want a replay of that. I want to see how I was walking down the street. It must have been something like, you know, and I ran home right after that. Man, I ran to the house. Said, "Mom, I'm going to be in a movie." I love this place. I really do. I love it every time I come here. Herb, I'm so glad that I'm here with you on this thing. I appreciate this award so much. I can't tell you how much I do. I love this town. Thank you all for donating everything that you did. This is a great thing. Thank you all so much.
Well, as I said earlier, Welcome, Mr. Fowler. Welcome, Mr. Boyer. We're extremely proud and happy to have you as part of the Hall of Fame. As Mr. Boyer indicated, I would like to say thank you to all the local businesses and the people in the community who donated all the great prizes, well, not prizes, the great gifts of green and white to our inductees. And Mr. Vogt has asked me to share that this will be on YouTube on Monday. So we'll get both of you the link to it so you can share it with family and friends. Yes. So this concludes the ceremony. Thank you all for coming, and feel free to stick around and enjoy some football.